What's up, everybody? Some baseball news. Skip Schumaker returning to St. Louis to be the bench coach for your Cardinals. So he'll be on the staff for Oliver Marmol's first season as manager next year in 2022. Skippy Schu coming back to the Cardinals to be the bench coach. And another great Cardinals discussion recently here on 590 The Fan on the Bernie Show. Bernie Miklasz talking Redbirds and what is to come potentially in the offseason here with the commish, the Hall of Famer from the Post-Dispatch, Rick Hummel. Take a listen here.
Commish, what do you have to say now as we reflect on the Austin Dean era in St. Louis? What are your final thoughts there?
Well, we hardly knew you. Yeah.
Absolutely. On a more serious note, look, we all knew Carlos Martinez and, Matt Carpenter, Cardinals were going to pick up their options. I want to ask you about, first of all, Carpenter. From 2012 through 2018, even part of 2019, this guy was just a terrific player, and the Cardinals were very successful. It's a shame it ended up the way it did, but, I kind of just want to it's such a cliche, but kind of like remember the good times and all that he did for the franchise. Because I think with a lot of fans, that's kind of gotten lost along the way, how good important he really was.
That's what I tried to do in that story this morning. I said, yeah, these guys were lousy the last 2 years. Anybody can see that, and lousy the last 3 years, I guess. And but there were other moments that you might want to consider, or other seasons that you might want to consider. There's 5 All-Star bursts between them. Carpenter's got some records, 3 home runs and 2 doubles in the same game. He sparked that comeback against Kershaw in the first game of the division series in 14. Martinez was as it turned out, was a great reliever when he started and a great reliever when his relief career ended. But his starting career was maybe 3 years worth of good stuff and nothing after that. But he was a great reliever when he came up, too.
Yeah, he helped them, no doubt. Those teams that were really strong in the early years of his career, and his physical issues after that, he always kind of had a little bit of a haywire brain. That didn't help him, but I liked him a lot, and I appreciate what he was able to do for the Cardinals. Matt Carpenter especially, because he did it over a longer period of time. And I don't know why people get mad at the player, because the team, in effect, issues a contract that worked out terribly. Why get mad at the player? That part I never will understand.
Yeah, Matt Carpenter did not barge into Mo's office and blindfold him and tie him to a chair and said, "Hey, I need this $18.5 million extension for 2 years." And Mo said, "Okay." It wasn't the way it worked.
I don't think so. I don't think anybody can do that to Mo, actually. So, Commish, what would you do if you were the emperor of the front office? What would be the first thing you look at as far as improving the Cardinals for 2022?
Well, I always look at starting pitching, because there's no guarantee. You look at the 5 guys that were listed as the purported starters for 2022. You have Flaherty, who was hurt twice last season. You have Adam Wainwright, who's pitching at 40 years old, going on 41. You have Dakota Hudson, who pitched about, 7 innings in the big leagues last year. You have Miles Miklasz, who pitched under 50 innings in the big leagues. And then you have Alex Reyes, who kind of flamed out as a closer, had a nice year, actually,
right,
all things considered. If people will remember those good things, and then they probably don't after that home run he allowed it to Chris Taylor. But that's their 5 guys. Well, there's not a guarantee in there anywhere for a starter. I got to get another starting pitcher. It doesn't have to be a superstar, but he's got to be able to be in the middle of that rotation somewhere, and hopefully left-handed.
And I agree with you totally. I think most people do, but we all have opinions about their offense, how they can upgrade that. And a lot of it will have to come within, and there's reason to believe, there can be even more from that outfield next year. If Nootbaar is the 4th outfielder, as long as he's performing, that would be pretty good. Left-handed bat, I've always been in favor of maybe somebody more established, but he seems to have really blossomed, I think is the word. He was really impressive late in the year, and then he's been killing it in the Arizona Fall League. So that might take care of the 4th outfielder situation. But How else should they improve offensively? And I'm going to ask you something we talked about a few weeks ago, because there's still a lot of clamoring for one of these expensive shortstops on the free agent market, which you don't think they'll do. I don't think they'll do, but I still want to talk about it anyway. Do you see any wisdom in that?
Not really. I think they have two guys that can be regular shortstops. I mean, DeYoung is not a 198 hitter. He was this last year, yes, sir. And Sosa is a little more reliable defensively than he was in that last game against the Dodgers. Is he as good as DeYoung defensively? No. Is he faster on the bases? Of course. Is he a pretty good player, pretty good hitter? Yeah, he's pretty good. I mean, that isn't their biggest problem. That position will bat seventh or eighth. And one of those guys, I think, can be a regular player. DeYoung's been a regular player for 5 years. At the expense of trying to outbid the Yankees and teams like that for Carlos Correa. I mean, the Yankees will go big time after him because they don't have a shortstop. And so why get involved in that? I mean, who can say that Nolan Gorman can't play second base and Tommy Edman can't play shortstop? Shortstop was his position when he started playing in the Cardinal system.
Right.
What's wrong with that? He'll be just as good at short as he was at second. And Nolan Gorman's going to play somewhere for them next year.
And he should be able to really help them in one of their biggest issues, which is doing better against right-handed pitching, because he's left-handed bat, and he won't do much at all against, I think, at least early in his career, against left-handed pitchers. But boy, he's mashed right-handed pitchers everywhere, and there's no reason to believe he won't do that in the major leagues. It might take a little bit of a transition time. You could even platoon. You could even turn that into something of a platoon, because Edman has not been good against right-handed pitchers, but he kills left-handed. So I mean, there's a lot of ways they can go. And I know they'd want to play Edman a little more, but maybe if you keep the two shortstops, you could move Edman around, or if for some reason one of those shortstops not here, to your point, he could play a lot of shortstop as well. I mean, he's a movable piece. So if they're creative, they can somehow make this puzzle work a little bit.
And the player nobody talks about much, and is a number one draft pick who's now starting to play well, is Delvin Perez, who had a nice year in Springfield. Let's see what he does at Memphis next year. I mean, I think their philosophy is going to be, why should we tie up 4 or 5 years at $1 zillion for a shortstop when we got one coming up another year from now? We'll get by with what we have this year.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think we all knew that it was going to take him some time, because they drafted him so young, and he was skinny, and he was a little volatile, I guess, might be the best way to put it. Not a bad kid, but just immature, perhaps. But the light bulb went on, and I mean, he has done a lot of work, and he may turn out. So he's sort of on a faster track now, to your point, and there's a reason a lot of teams really were eyeing him in that draft, and he had that one problem. What was it? I forget what problem he got into, whether it was marijuana or PED or something. But so teams backed off of him. The Cardinals took a chance, which they were smart to do, and it may pay off. You're right. Maybe not 2022, but beyond that. So if you tie up a shortstop with one of these mega deals, and a couple of these guys, you better hope that they can even play. I mean, Corey Seager, in the last 3 full seasons, not 2020, the last 3 full seasons, he's averaged 85 games a year. Well, you got people clamoring for him. I don't get that, man. As La Russa told us all the time, right? First thing for players, you got to be able to go to the post.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he didn't make a whole lot of what I would call above average defensive plays in that series against the Braves either.
No.
He can hit, sure. And yes, with the DH likely to be in vogue next year, he would help it, but you're not signing him as a DH. You're signing him as a shortstop. And,
right.
and if he gravitates to third base, which has been reported that he'll be doing much of the rest of his career, well, that's not going to happen here.
You wouldn't think. And that was my next question. So you led me right into it. Thank you. And I'll make a shorter question this time. What do you do with DH if you're Rick Hummel, emperor of the baseball front office?
I rotate it. I don't bring in you can't bring in a 42-year-old guy.
Right.
Or even, that doesn't make any sense. you have to bring in a guy. The DH situation is changed now. The Nelson Cruz is going to be
lost
year, but
yeah.
But I think he can still play the outfield a little bit. But
Commish, real quick. Commish, real quick. Repeat what you said. We lost you for a few seconds. You were just talking about. Go ahead.
Makes less to bring in Albert the DH. The DH is going to be a guy. Nelson Cruz. I'm sorry, he's 40-something and he can't play the field. But most teams will have guys that will play that position, DH, and also be able to play in the field once in a while. First base, third base, shortstop, move guys out of their positions to give them a day off their feet in the field. And put them at DH. I don't need one specific guy.
Right. Well, there's a lot of ways they can go. And there may be some of these guys who are going to be non-tendered or who opted out, who maybe aren't the best defensive players, but would be open to a DH job. So I think it's one of those things that's just going to be up in the air for a while if they look outside, because I think they're going to have some options, like all teams will. There'll be some players coming available that might intrigue them or other teams. It is going to be interesting because the Cardinals have never had to, in effect, worry about who's going to DH before.
Well, you can use your 8-man lineup that you have returning, no matter which guy plays shortstop, and just say Gorman's going to be your DH. Not that he is, but let's just say that he could be. He could be part of a platoon at DH. He's going to be playing in the big leagues next year. He's going to be hitting in the big leagues next year. And if you don't like him at second base every day, well, there's another spot for him.
There you go. And the same would apply if there's room at the end for Juan Yepez, who's right-handed hitter, who's come on gangbusters. There's a DH platoon with two young, really exciting hitters. If you would want to go there, I mean, it's there for you. What I'm trying to say is that's an option. I don't know how they feel about that, but that's another option.
Well, I don't think that they can look outside the organization and find too much better than that possibility. If both those guys play as they did this year in AAA, if they play three-quarters of that as well next year in the big leagues, they're fine.
Yeah, that part actually intrigues me. It's actually exciting if you think about it. If you're not going to spend a lot of money and go get a guy who's a pure DH, if these guys can hit, play them, and if it means DHing a lot in their rookie year, so what? It's not like it's the end of the world, or it means that their careers as a position player is over with, right? So, anyway.
Well, Gorman knows his position is batter's box. He's always known that. He's never been a great defender.
Right. That's absolutely true. Commish, one more thing for you. Buster Posey announced his retirement. Yadier Molina's got one more year to go. Twitter broke out into the usual rash, and Molina fans ripping Posey, Posey fans ripping Molina, which I think is just not only a waste of time, it's just stupid. These guys are both Hall of Famers, maybe for different reasons, but they're both Hall of Famers. What your thoughts on Posey, though? Just someone who covered baseball and has covered a lot of great catchers through the years. Just tell us your thoughts on him.
Well, I'm not sure he was a great catcher, but he was a great hitter and a great team leader. That team won world titles in 10, 12, and 14, and he had a lot to do with that. I don't know that, he played first base a lot too, but still, he was a good enough catcher and just a great team leader.
And is there any doubt in your mind that he's a Hall of Famer? And I don't get hung up on the first ballot stuff. I don't care about that part, but do you think he's going to get into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
And I don't have any doubt about Molina either.
Right.
He's got 5 300 seasons of his own and 9 Gold Gloves so far, 10 All-Stars so far. And up on the Cardinal list, you pass Rogers Hornsby in hits for crying out loud. It's pretty good, huh?
I know. He's on all those lists now. He'll have 1,000 RBI after this coming season, and by the time unless there's something catastrophic happens where he can't play, he'll be at the end of next season. He'll be number 4 all time in hits for catchers. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So he'll make it.
what's not to like there? I mean, so it took him 19 years. So what? 19 years as a catcher is still pretty good.
Yeah, and he
had no hits.
I talked about this a little bit. The other thing too, it's like, yeah, he's offensively all the way around. He's not what he was. He's been below average the last 3 years. But number one, they still have really good pitching, and a lot of that has to do with him. And it's been that way since he took over in 2005. And the other thing is, teams still don't try to run against the guy. I mean, he threw out 41% this past year, 45% in 2020. And the Cardinals, once again, fewest stolen bases allowed, but more importantly, perhaps fewest stolen base attempts against any National League team. So it's not like he's hanging on as some like totally washed up guy. It's kind of sad to look at him. He's still viable and he's still an asset. So I get tired of these people. It's like, well, he's just hanging around for counting stats. No, actually he's not. I mean, this guy's been to 13 postseasons, including the last 3, and he's in the middle of all of it. So I don't know why people see. I get mad about this stuff, some of the stuff on Twitter, and I should know better, Commish. I should know better than even worry about that stuff, but I can't help myself sometimes. Well,
the only counting stat he cares about is that 5th World Series to be in.
Yep.
He's 2-2. Not many players can take away an entire facet of a team's potential offense by just being on the field, but he does. The stolen base never beats the Cardinals if he's catching. It never.
Right. Yeah, no doubt about it. Commish, we'll talk again soon. I don't want to, bother you too much in the off season, but if I could check in periodically, that would be outstanding. And I really enjoy our conversations very, very much. And
I do too.
And I had a ball with you this year. And but we'll be talking again, like you said, pretty frequently, I hope. And
all right, man.
Okay, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is the great Rick Hummel here on 590 The Fan KFNS. Yeah, the thing about Molina and Jim, you and I have been through this a bunch of times, but I do know it's a passionate thing for us, for Cardinals fans, but I just get really ticked off when he's disparaged. And look, it's okay to say, well, he doesn't do this as well as he used to. He doesn't hit overall as well as he used to. Or it seemed to me he struggled a bit with blocking this year.
Yeah.
His pitch framing, actually, the numbers on that were good, a little better than I thought. He's still really good at that. But my goodness, guy hit 327 with runners in scoring position, and nobody wants to run on him. And there's still not a guy that you want up. I mean, maybe Goldie, I don't know, but who do you want up in a big spot? Molina is still a guy he'd be in your top 3 selections, right?
Still collects.
And you go, and again, sometimes you got to rely on these, like the fancy stats, but you go to Baseball Reference and their version of wins above replacement, right? This guy through 2021, there's only one catcher in the history of baseball has got more defensive wins above replacement than Yadier Molina in the history of baseball, and that would be Pudge Rodriguez. And I don't know, man, there's enough offense there. To me, it makes it a slam dunk. Plus, he's caught over 18,000 innings if you include the postseason. He's appeared in more postseason games than any player in National League history, and he has been a part of more postseason wins than any player in National League history. And he's on the leaderboard, unbelievably so, Cardinals history, and there have been so many great hitters, and he's in the top 6 or 7 in all these categories, and is about to move up even more. And like, for example, to get over, he's only two RBI away from 1,000. I mean, that's not easy to do. So, I just don't understand people that would even suggest, well, I'm not sure. What the hell are you not sure about? 9 Gold Gloves, 11 All-Star games, 7th, by the end of next year, 4th most hits in the history of the game by a catcher. Only Stan the Man and Brock have more hits with the Cardinal uniform. You're second highest rated defensive catcher of all time. 13 postseasons. Second best ERA in baseball while he's been the catcher. I mean, what the hell? What do you want exactly?
Anyone who's saying no is just, I would tell them, turn in your card, go back out and have recess because you don't know what you're talking about. I think part of it are people that are just tired of getting beat by the man because he's beating their baseball team all the time. There's a reason why every team in the Central, wherever he goes, he gets booed. because he's beating them every time.
There's a guy I know. I'm not going to say. Listen, man. I would like to talk to him about this, but I'm not going to mention his name for now. If our listeners are going to get mad at me and call me a chicken, you're okay. You're right. I don't want to speak his name, but he's a writer, shall I say, in one of these cities where the Cardinals are disliked, really disliked, and it just kind of pours into those feelings drift into the press box as well, which I've never understood, because there have been all kinds of players from other teams that have irritated me as a St. Louis writer, right? But I tell you what, and Buster Posey in a way is like that, although he never really irritated me. But if you have a rival, and Molina and Posey in a way were rivals in a way, because the two best catchers in the league, obviously. Overall, but for different reasons. But I would never, not for 1 second, on Betty Lee Andrews Miklas's grave, not for 1 second, if there was a player on a team that I hated and I didn't really care for him at all, not for 1 second would I sit there and act like, well, I'm not sure if he's a Hall of Famer. I would never do that. Hell, I mean, as a kid, Joe Willie Namath beat my Baltimore Colts, the biggest Super Bowl upset of all time. I hated him, but I love him. Now, you got to appreciate people.
You got to appreciate the talent
when the dust settles, right?
Yep.
I don't get this, man. I swear, I don't. It's a real, almost mental illness. I'm telling you, this pocket of hatred out there for him, and people that need to be more professional, quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
So, I get worked up about this stuff. We can have like one segment a week on this until Molina's voted into Cooperstown.
Oh, we only have a year to go.
But no,
until he's voted
five
in.
after that.
Five after that.
Yeah, we talk about it every week.
Yeah.